Alright guys, so just to kind of, some side notes before we start. So this will be part 2 of our wiring video. So the last, part 1 was basically compiled videos that I had taken during the course of wiring the buggy up. And we did skip a step as far as video is concerned because for some reason the camera shut down. And that was while I was hooking up the CDI. So we didn't really miss anything, and I will explain what we missed on video to try and catch us back up. But we did run our wires from our coil and our stator. So we had our coil wire, AC power, trigger wire, 3 charging wires, and a ground. Ran up to the box, and then we were going to hook up our CDI. Well, at that point, for some reason, I turned the camera on, and within like 5 seconds, it just shut off. Don't know if the battery was getting low, what was going on. So I went ahead and was just working away and putting the solder joints on all, the connections to the CDI, and then realized the camera had stopped. And at that point, I had to stop anyway. So I took the compilation of video and made a part 1, put it on there, so you guys could give it a couple views, maybe memorize some stuff or whatnot. So what we're gonna do is what we have left now. I'm trying to take an assessment now because it's basically been about a week later since I took all those other videos. So between putting it together and uploading it, I had to sit here and basically take a physical assessment with my eyes to see where I'm at, because I've walked away from this for about a week and I need to get it done. I need to get it wired up, and I want to get these front wheels on. I want to get this thing to be a roller today. So we're going to finish up this wiring today, right now. So at this point, what is left is I have to run the ground for the CDI. We're going to do a review on the CDI next, and then have to run a starter wire. At that point, we just have to hook up our key switch. She turns over and we got spark. We have a successful wiring job right there. Everything that this thing is supposed to do is what everything we set out to accomplish, it's doing what it's supposed to do, what we set out to accomplish. So let's review back to the CDI next. Okay, so here's our CDI, here's our harness. We're going to review the pinouts real quick, looking at it this way. Get this ground wire out of the way, and do not pay attention to the colors because that's the way the pre-connections came out. Like I said, the colors are random, and I just change them on the other end for what I need to do. Now, on the 4-pin connector, we have 2 different connectors here. On the 4-pin, upper right hand side, that'll be where that black wire is going in. That is the trigger. Okay, that's the trigger coming from the stator going into the CDI. The white wire, and just to kind of go backtrack, so here's our solder joint, and you can see my blue wire, which we said before is going to be the trigger, turns into that black wire and goes in there. Okay, so the white wire, we're going to trace it back. Our white wire is that brown with the white tracer, and that is going out to the coil, so that's output to the coil. Okay, so basically the trigger signal comes in on this black wire and goes through the CDI and then goes out on this white wire to the coil to actually fire the spark plug. This blue wire here is going to be our ground. We're just going to put a loop on that and put it in our trusty ground loop in the box. And then over here, the red with the blue tracer, which we said was going to be our AC power, coming off the stator, is in our bottom, as you're looking at it, with the 4-pin to the left and the 2-pin to the right. The bottom plug on that is AC power going in. Okay, so like I said, we're wiring this AC. Okay, so this blue wire here is going to be the ground for the CDI. So we're going to put a loop on this and have it ready to put on our ground lug on the box. Okay, we get our torch, we'll do a little shrink on it, shrink. Okay. Ground is done. So our CDI is ready. Our CDI is basically already wired up. So next plan of attack, we'll leave the key switch for last. We need to basically cut the starter wire and basically solder another wire that's long enough to get up to the box. Okay, so I'm gonna get that ready next. Alright, so got this piece of 10 gauge blue wire, and I'm only using blue because it's different. I want to use green for my ground, and I have red. I don't want to confuse that because I don't want 2 red wires going to the solenoid, so I'm just picking a different color. This is the only color I have left in this gauge. In fact, I have to order more because this is the last bit of it. So what I'm going to do is get it stripped off. I'm going to take the starter wire that came with the starter, and I'd like to utilize this little rubber deal here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off here. Give me a little bit of meat. Let's see what I got going on here. I'm probably just going to put a loop. It didn't look like I left enough meat on there anyway, so that's okay. Not a big deal because the starter only gets hot when you turn the key anyway, so not as concerned about that. But we need to take off. So I'm going to slide this up a little bit, cut some off, give it some workspace, and I'm going to end up doing the solder joint on this and then heat shrinking it and get it back to go slide back on. There we go. Trim a little more off. Rest of my spring popped out. Okay. Trim some of this off. All right. Grab a piece of heat shrink and a solder joint and a torch. Okay. I dropped the heat shrink. Where'd it go? cool down. I'm doing this without glasses on too, so not safety glasses, seeing glasses. Might be having a hard time with this. Kind of got to be careful with it when you first do it, just because you gotta wait for it to harden up. So that'll slide up over. Yep. Okay, perfect. The other thing is you want to let it cool enough that the shrink don't start shrinking as you're slipping it over. Otherwise it'll not slip on anymore. Alright, and I'm actually going to double up on this one here. I'll show you why. Again, this is just a preference thing. Let that cool down. Do it like that so it's straight. While it's cooling down, we're going to do the terminals on our key switch and get that ready. Alright, so this is a key switch commonly found on American Sportworks Carbide, Hammerheads, and Trailmasters. Okay, it's got a 3-prong switch. The way it's wired up is the red is the supply coming in. The white goes to the CDI or the ignition. And then your green wire here, that is for your solenoid or your crank. Now you can wire this hot, so you can have a hot come in on the red as the supply, and if you have a DC wired CDI, you can use the white wire to power it, and then the green one to power the solenoid. Okay, in our case, we're going AC, and I've wired everything where it's going to be all grounds on the key switch. Okay, so what I'm going to do is your main ground is going to come in into the same pin as the red wire coming out. The ground for the CDI is going on the white. And then the ground for the solenoid is going to go on the green, okay? And basically what I'm doing is, this has ground all the time. When I turn the key in the ignition position, it gives ground to the CDI, which will allow it to function, okay? And then as you crank over the motor and the magneto starts spinning, the CDI will have ground and get AC power from the stator, and that's what will cause the spark, and that'll make the engine fire, okay? Now, this is an odd plug. Okay, on scooters, they're usually backwards. So if you notice, the lock on this is on the male side. And when I say male, I mean the little spades are sticking out, okay? And you have, this is your lock for the harness. On scooters, it's the opposite. The lock is on the female side. So what I'm gonna do is, because they're hard to come by, these just standalone plugs, is this will fit into here. And if you notice, the two locks will be opposite each other or upside down. Let me just make sure I'm not bending pins. Come on. I need to get my glasses on because I'm not seeing what I'm, oh, there we go, it slides right on. Okay, so it slides on. So our wires are going to come in from the back. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a zip tie to lock these two together. So if you ever have to change a key switch, because these locks, there's nothing for either of these locks to lock into. Okay, so I'll just run one really small zip tie around here to lock them together so they just can't pull out on their own. Now, we need to come up with wires for the key switch, and then tie them in, which I made a mistake when I put a loop on the ground because I have to tie it into the key switch. See, I got to thinking a little ahead. All right, so we're going to cut that loop back off because it's getting the ground for the CDI, which is what this is, remember. That's getting into the key switch. So I already made a goof. So let me back up here. And that's probably why I didn't put the loop on last week. And that's sometimes the problem with coming back to a project after letting it sit for a week. All right, so that's going to get solder jointed to the whatever wire I use for going into the key switch. So let's pick 3 colors of wires. Okay, this is pretty much what I do for every key switch I wire like this to ground, or actually even if I wire it the other way. So I picked 3 random colors, okay? In this case, if it was getting wired hot for DC, I would use a red wire instead of a green, but I'm gonna use this green. This green's going to the ground lug, and I have an orange and a pink. And normally what I do is I use the pink wire to signify to me that the ground for the, because I don't want 3 green wires, I'll get confused if I'm trying to diagnose. So I use the pink wire to go to the solenoid, and I use the orange wire to go to the CDI. And that way it's just easier for me because I wire these all up the same. I come up with my own little color code, if you will, on the buggies that I wire. And that's usually what I do 90% of the time as far as colors. You know, I'll go red, pink, orange, or I'll go green, pink, orange, depending on how I'm wiring the key switch. So what we'll do first is we will get our wires on the plug. So we will start with the ground, which is our supply. All right, let me get the camera down. This is where I need my glasses. Excuse me 1 second. I almost feel like I need glasses to find my glasses. All right. Pliers. All right, so we got a little pin, and I'm bending down. Tabs. And these are the female side of those big spades. Nice. Okay, so there's one. Get our orange wire. Strip. And the pink wire. we get our plug. We match up the wires where we want them to go. You know, the pink one is going to the bottom because that's going to be our solenoid, and it's going to match up with the green. So give it a shove. It's all locked in. The other one, green, is going to go on this side. Make sure I don't do it backwards. And then our orange. Okay, there we go. All locked in. Now we're going to plug them in. You can see what the inside looks like after I put that in there. It's female. And now I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to check and make sure I didn't screw up. Mix match my wires. Now we got a little bit of resistance in there. Pins ain't bending. That's kind of. There we go. Okay. Let's see if I still have that little zip tie I pulled out. That's put things down. Don't know where I put them. Let's grab another one real quick. Okay. Hopefully this will be long enough. I think so. Might not be. Nope, for sure. Okay. Put two of them in. Alright, just hook two zip ties together, little ones. And I'll just keep that from backing out. Perfect. Okay. So you see my pink and my green line up. My green and red line up. That's what I want to do. And my orange and my white line up. Okay, so now we need to just basically see how much length I need off this to trim off. So we don't need much here. And our starter solenoid. I think it's not in play yet. So I know we brought a starter solenoid out here. At least I thought it. Yep, it's right here. I took it out of the box. I was looking for the box. So here's our starter solenoid, which has a huge amount of pigtail on it. So we'll put on a connector for this too. So actually, we'll do that last. We'll do the solder joint. So actually, this green one here is the one that I need to have the loop on it. So I goofed, put it on the wrong wire. We'll leave all that length of wire there. This way, if you need to get the solenoid out, pull shit out of the box, you can pull it out of the box. In the loop. Okay, right there. switch. Okay. Supply for the keychain or keychain. Key switch is done. Here's our orange. This is going to our CDI. We'll probably cut these two down because there's going to be so much other wire connected to them. So trim off some excess. So now we're going to bring our solenoid over here. We're going to match. So usually you have like all kinds of combinations of wires on solenoids. So in this case we have two yellows. One's got a green, red. One's got green. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hook up the key switch to the green side, and then I'm going to use the red side for hot. Bend this up a little bit. Okay. Here's the other end of that solenoid plug. I already had a piece of red wire on one of these pins already, so I forget why, but I'm not going to complain about it because it's one less thing I got to do. That's our red side. Locked in. And this other pin is going on here, where the solenoid of the key switch is going to go. Alright, so here's our plug. Solenoid's plugging into this. Okay, so here's what's happening. This wire here is going to get tied into a fuse with all the other DC wire before it hits the solenoid. This way, if the fuse pops, everything shuts down. You don't have to worry about burning stuff up in a dead short. Alright, so this gets hot all the time. So you've got a hot feed coming to the solenoid all the time. What the solenoid does is these two lugs here, one side gets starter, one side gets ground. It doesn't matter which side gets which, because basically what the solenoid does is when you complete this circuit here on this pigtail, it allows, picture like if it was plumbing, it opens a valve and allows power to get from these two to get, touch or to get power to each other. Okay, so let's say the power comes in on this side, and when you activate this circuit, what the solenoid does is opens it up to allow the power to get to this side, which goes to the starter, which hits the starter. When you turn the key off, it cuts the ground off for the solenoid and then turns the starter off. Okay, and that's basically, simply put, what we're doing here, what the mission is. So what I'm going to do is, now, so this is hot all the time. This ground is going to the key. Okay, so this circuit only gets completed when you give it ground. Okay, if you could do it the opposite too. You could wire hot to the key, but you'd have to wire the whole key switch hot. All right. So at that point, our solenoid's hooked up except for connecting the battery power and the starter. Okay. At this point, we don't have an electric choke to worry about because we're running a Mikuni that's got a manual. All right. So now we're gonna make a fuse holder. So I get two pieces of wire. This is just something I do. I don't know, because you can use any fuse holder. You can buy a fuse holder. And I usually don't have any in the shop, so I just kind of make my own. I use two spades. I use these spades with like these little rubber boots on them, so they're isolated and they don't touch one side to the next. And they basically crimp on just like our harness connectors do. Alright, so apparently the camera shut off on me again. I went and checked the card. Apparently I have some video. I shouldn't say that it's apparent, but I took some video off the card thinking that maybe the card was full. So in the meantime, I did finish my fuse holder. So it's just something I do. You know, it's easy, to the point. That's all you really need for a fuse holder anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a loop on this end, and this end is going to go get fed off the hot side of the solenoid where the battery connects. You could even attach the battery if you wanted to. It's up to you. Depending on how much room I feel I have, I might do that myself. But the premise is DC power is getting fed to this. On my torch. I'm gonna keep an eye on the stupid camera because when it shuts off, I really don't realize it. It doesn't make a peep, not a noise. So, all right, that's done. So at this point, the only wire left to run is we've got 3 more pieces of wire to go, and that's our starter wire and our positive and negative battery cables. So, which will be real short, real easy. Starter wire I've already got, so let's go ahead and run that. It should be cool enough. Yep, feels good. I'm gonna run that guy up there. Heater in. Alright, so that's how much we have left. Probably get away with trimming this much off. I almost got my finger there. That's good. Need a bigger loop. So the battery sits in here, so what I'm going to do is I'm planning on I swore I had a nut driver. So far so good, camera stand on. Alright, find the nut driver real quick. Okay. do need to run our ground cable, which that's going to be easy. I think I'm just going to run it bolt right here to the right into the chassis. Do one of these bowl holes for the seats. So at this point, just assessing what's left. Not much. Okay. Alright, let's run some battery cables. Alright, so I got a nice big chunk of red wire. This guy looks to be 8 gauge because it is tight. So, nope, don't feel good about that at all. Go to that one. Shrink on it to make it look pretty. Do the other end. Not big enough. Okay. Clumsy. Sorry, I have to do this off camera. Just I need to space to push that on this thing because it's tough. There we go. Alright, shrink her up. Just a good piece of ground. Okay. Alright, so we got our ground, we got our hot. Now we need a motor ground, which I already have this ready to go. We'll figure out where we're going to put this. I think I'm just going to go on a valve cover with it. Let me get a T-handle, figure out how long this needs to be. Alright, so where we're going to go is that lower valve cover bolt. Grab the right, yes I did. Just go down like that. Thinking ground wise, we're just going to go right for that bolt for the seat right there. So we can cut it off pretty much right there. Piece of shrink. Yeah, let's shrink it. Almost forgot. trying to use the hook. You bitch. I'm going to have to use the other one. Give me 1 second. Sorry, gotta pull another tool out of the drawer. Alright, so got the real tool now. I'm gonna operate this thing with one hand. Alright, got it on. Gonna heat shrink it. Done. Next part.
Go ahead.
Alright, so we're putting our ground lug in for the motor. Always important to ground the motor. If the motor's not grounded, first of all, it probably won't turn over. And number two, it'll probably smoke the stator. It'll smoke some wires. Which nobody likes to smoke wires. I do this a lot with ground lugs. I'll just put a nut and bolt in and then add another nut. And this way I don't have to take the whole bolt out if I ever want to unground something or take something apart. So basically I'll sit like that, grab a couple of wrenches. The other nice thing about it is when you're taking off the ground, you know, the ground wire, you don't need another wrench. You just need the one wrench to knock the nut off because this will be locked down and not spin. Untangle it. Go right there like that. Alright, motor's grounded. Always want to leave a little slack because things are going to bounce back here. Go up and down the swing arm. Alright, all the other wires are run. We're going to need to, once we get all this organized and make sure everything works, we'll run some lume on there. Our CDI is hooked up. Just reviewing, we got our fuse on. At this point, the last thing to do would be put a nut on that ground, which we still need to throw a wire on there. Did I get it? Nope, we have our starter wire on there. So we'll get a nut for that ground, and that stud in there, the ground is done the same way. It's locked in there, so I just need to get a nut to put over it. Grab our trusty nut driver. Alright, so now at this point everything is grounded in the box. And like we mentioned before, the bracket that the box is mounted to is made out of metal. It's bolted through the floorboard, which all this stuff's welded together, so now we have like a Bluetooth ground going on. The whole chassis is grounded, so I can ground anywhere on the chassis. And on this particular deal, and it won't be the case with a normal swing arm, but because I have Heim joints here and there's no rubber, actually this whole swing arm is grounded. So really, in essence, I could have grounded right to the swing arm, and that's just an afterthought, but that's fine. Now with a rubber bushing on a stock buggy, that's not going to be the case. That bushing would totally isolate. If you grounded the chassis up here, the bushings in the swing arm will totally isolate the swing arm. So that means you'd have to run another ground wire from here and basically ground the swing arm somewhere. So, but in our case with the Heim joints, we don't have that issue. Get our box with looking for the battery terminals, which I don't see, or the screws for batteries, which is not a problem. I'll just have to pick up another package, and they're over in my nut and bolt bin anyway, so let me just grab one and then I'll find them later.
Okay, well.
Alright, so apparently I've got the same camera issues I had before where the thing keeps on shutting off, but the battery this time went dry, so we gave it a few minutes. So I'm trying to get this done. I want to put wheels on it. Alright, so while we were waiting, I went ahead and just put the battery back in with the two cables. So we got our ground, we got our hot. Here's our hot with our fuse going to our solenoid. Nut. And I could have done it either way. I could either hook the fuse to here, or I could hook the fuse to there. It doesn't matter. I just chose to go ahead and do it over here. And this cable, get it bent the way I want to get it bent. I have to untangle ourselves over here. Plan was I have this little bit of bolt sticking out, kind of hold it in place. I want to put a block, one of these foam blocks down there, and that should keep this wire so stiff. That'll keep this solenoid from bouncing around. So we'll get some of our extra blocks from the battery. Peel one off. Think about this. Actually, what I might do. Yeah. Push that up against it. That seems pretty secure. And that wire is stiff. Alright. Get our ground for the battery. Get our CDI tucked in there. Fortunately, there's enough wire in there to keep things from bouncing around. And I need to get another nut. Drop it down for that ground. Fuse down there. I'm going to stick a full block in the side here, and I think with all the wires coming out of here, that should be fine as far as this guy. Forgot one wire. Okay. No big deal. Alright, so what I forgot through all this stuff was, we're going to go back, knock this off for a second. Looked in there and found an extra red wire, and what that wire is basically our charging wire, so she needs to get connected. I really screwed that up. Okay. Might as well record the mistakes so you know how to fix them. Let's knock the Alright, got that fixed. Alright, so what I'm going to do is a quick fix for this as soon as I get this. Pull that, get it connected. I need that much water. All right, so while we're waiting for the battery in the camera to recharge, I went ahead, I did stuff that everybody basically should know: hook up a battery. So no secrets there. I went ahead, got the keys. We've got the keys in ignition. Now we're looking for two things. This is a very simple system. We're only looking for this motor to crank and have spark. If we crank and we have spark, then we accomplished the mission. There's no lights on here and stuff. Not to say that something like this you couldn't add lights to and whatnot, but that's not what this is all about. So I'm gonna do test number one. We are cranking, it's doing what it's supposed to do. Test number two, I have a spark plug over here. I pulled it out of the motor. That's why the motor's spinning so free. And we're gonna get it to where I can turn the key and look at the spark. Hopefully we got spark. Mission accomplished. So we're gonna put our plug back in. We're gonna fire this motor up right where it sits. Oh, we have no gas in it. I take that back. But the motor's been fired up. So as you saw in one of the update videos for this guy. And so we still have to mount the gas tank and everything. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But hopefully I'll find a spark plug wrench. There it is. So what's left to do is we're gonna make it look pretty. I'm gonna get some wire loom out, make it look the part, secure everything, zip tie it, let you have a look at that, and then we have accomplished this mission. We can get on with the rest of getting this buggy to be a roller, which I'm kind of looking forward to doing. Plug wrench out. Coil wire. It's tangled up in there. There we go. Snap it. All right, we can get some wire loom and we will we'll get this all secured. Go. All right, so got our wire loom on, zip tied everything nice and tight. I like to give a little bit of swing room here for any wiring going front to back, so we don't want anything getting overextended and getting yanked out. Keys in, fires up the way it should. So that's basically the extent of it. I'll do a couple more videos as I get some more jobs to do wiring, and I'll try and run a camera with this. But I mean, that's the basics of it. So I mean, it's not as simple. There's no voodoo or black magic involved or anything like that. It's just a matter of knowing, what components do what wires should run from what component to the other, and not expecting obviously anybody to get it on the first try. But I mean, a couple of videos like this, if it gives you enough confidence that you can try and you think you can tackle it yourself, that's it, man. That's freedom right there. It's being liberated. So I'm gonna let you go on this one right now. So you know, keep an eye out for all the other videos, race videos. You need parts, go to gotbuggies.com. And that's it. Till next time, JD's out.